આ 100 રૂપિયામાં 3 પીસ આપી દે.
અરે સાહેબ, આ બનાવવામાં બહુ મહેનત પડે છે, એમ કઈ ન દેવાય 100 રૂપિયામાં 3.
અરે આપી દે ને, આમે તારે પૈસાની તો સખત જરૂર છે જ ને આ ધરતીકંપ પછી.
હું બોલે તમે આ કઈ ભીખ દેવા આવ્યા છો? હાલતી ના થાવ, હાલતી ના. ભલે અમારે ઘર બહાર કે અમારા આદમી બધા ગયા, પણ અમે કઈ ભિખારી નથી, ઘડીકમાં ઊભા થઈ જઈશું. હા,
This is Kutch, and this is the Kutchi spirit. 8:46 a.m. 26th January 2001. Devastating earthquake measuring 6.9 on the Richter scale. In a matter of seconds, crippled the entire Kutch region. It took away 20,000 lives and millions were rendered homeless. Infrastructure was in a complete shambles. People were in a state of shock. Even the administration was left clueless. Nothing short of a miracle was needed. But then, in adversity, nature brings out the best in man. It was a moment of reckoning, a moment of challenge for the government machinery. Criticism and accolades go hand in hand on certain occasions where choices are made by the people. The Chief Minister immediately summoned senior officers from across the state. In less than 24 hours, they were all deployed to the remotest villages of the worst hit areas of Bhuj, Bhachau, Rapar and Anjar. There was death and destruction everywhere. At first, man seemed unequal to the situation. The Gujarat Emergency Earthquake Reconstruction Project was immediately set up by the Gujarat Disaster Management Authority. A total of 7,633 villages of 21 districts were totally destroyed. The earthquake shook 1,82,639 square kilometers of area in the state, bringing about immense loss of life, human injury and irreparable damage to infrastructure. 1,67,000 people were injured. More than 2,000 children orphaned. 1.4 million houses were totally destroyed or damaged. Thousands of local artisans and industrial workers lost their livelihood. More than 1,000 hospitals, 7 health clinics were razed to the ground. 12,000 schools just vanished in less than a minute. In Anjar alone, 400 school children were buried alive. The total loss of major infrastructure and private properties amounted to over $5,000 million. Ultimately, it is the common man's voice that provides direction to administrative reforms. The immediate need was to re-establish infrastructural support. Work was initiated on a war footing. Officers and their staff monitored the progress round the clock. Some of the very same officials who themselves with their families had suffered personal losses at the hands of the quake. The Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority set up a task force which submitted its recommendations of immediate relief work to the state cabinet. It is never easy to create what the Almighty has destroyed, but then every challenge provides an opportunity too. When the area falls under Zone 5 of earthquake intensity, you need to be extra vigilant. Education was provided to the people to deal with such situations. Some of the NGOs and state governments adopted several villages, and thus started the saga of mammoth reconstruction work.
It's 1 year past the earthquake, and what we are now into is the package for rehabilitating the affected people. The surveys have very categorically indicated that either the people are relocated into a new site or allowed to rehabilitate in situ. For those among the people affected who have agreed to move to a relocation site, we have provided them with a 100 square meter plot, a wonderful living condition with infrastructure like drinking water, underground drainage, and good roads, street lights, etc. 3 such sites have been identified and people have been advised to move in. Unfortunately, there are quite a few who intend to settle in situ, and that is making the task for us very difficult, especially because, having introduced the town planning scheme, we find that the widening of the roads have narrowed down the sizes of the popular plots belonging to people. As a consequence of which, families numbering 6, 7, 10 are trying to squeeze into small plots at measuring 30-40 square meters per unit. This is the task that we have now to face. We have 2 options with us: convince them to move to the relocation site or allow them to build small houses wherever they are.
To rehabilitate people, it was to reconstruct their lives too. To that end, psychological counseling was provided. 836 summer schools were organized and teachers trained for trauma relief. A cross-section of people, from rural artisans to industrial workers, were addressed. Input kits, farms and irrigation structures, tools, work sheds, looms were distributed. Easy loans and subsidies were given.
The exercise will last for another 2 years. We are also ensuring that the assistance that is being settled for them, provided for them, is released well in time to enable them to do the reconstruction. Our challenge now is to ensure that the construction work is done in a manner that establishes that the houses constructed are earthquake proof. For that, we have our engineering team monitoring the construction of each and every house. And on completion of the work, and after ensuring that the houses are well done as per the design, we release the 3rd installment. As of now, we have almost completed 7,000 houses. We have completely reconstructed the 3 relocation sites. The roads have been widened, the underground drainage has been put into place, drinking water pipelines has been put into place. I think this was one example for any state in the country to experience the fastest rehabilitation work for the earthquake affected people. More importantly, we have succeeded in doing what we have done is primarily because of the participation of the people. We have taken the people with us and ensured that they stand on with on.
Handicraft parks and mini parks were set up. 8.9 lakh houses were repaired. 1,000 engineers were deployed for technical guidance.
Another important challenge for us was to restore the heritage buildings and the heritage constructions. The town old vegetable market, the 3 important gates of this city of Bhuj, which were completely in a dilapidated condition, we have now started the reconstruction work. And we hope that with the kind of efforts that we are putting, we should be able to definitely give a life of another 100 years to all these buildings. And additionally, we have started the recreational activities for the people of Bhuj, the greening aspect for the people of Bhuj, and also making the living conditions very, very comfortable.
Primary schools were reopened in 7,800 shelters. 7,270 classrooms were reconstructed. 42,678 repaired at a cost of rupees 760 crores.
The town planning of Bhuj has been done in a very quick time. It is a challengeable task, and the entire affairs of the present problems and the futuristic requirements are taken care by looking after to the social and economic situation of the city, people and its environs. We have adopted in town planning not only for lessening the density of the city, not only the new planning, we have proposed 4 townships in the city which are of a record of its own type, and around 20,000 population is going to come, which is of 5,000 each in those townships. So far whatever we have implemented several roads, we have implemented several buildings, several plans were made, but still what we feel is we could have done much better.
इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना.
Health units were operational immediately in 4,134 temporary arrangements. Bhuj Civil Hospital was reconstructed. 5,000 public buildings were repaired. 1,500 kilometers of state roads were strengthened. 116 bridges were repaired. Before monsoon, emergency repairing of 245 dams was completed. Power was restored to Bhuj in just 48 hours, to other towns in 4 days, and to 925 villages in just 6 days.
Since 3.5 years, I have been working with a network of organizations working in Kutch called the Kutch Navnirman Abhiyan. It is a collective of 27 organizations which are working since long in the district for rehabilitation as well as developmental programs. Because of the visible speed in which the rehabilitation happened. Second, the scale and intensity of the NGOs that got involved in the implementation as well as community mobilization. Thirdly and importantly, the collaborative space that the government provided to the voluntary sector. I can say this because I have been a part of the documentation of the overall rehabilitation process right from the beginning till now. Around 90 organizations which gave in detail information about the funds that they received, from whom they received, how much has been utilized and how much has yet to be utilized. Through such an effort of sharing the information and both financial and the physical activities, it creates a very positive energy of being accountable and transparent to the communities.
Thus Kutch and Gujarat recovered in less than a year. Some other state governments and NGOs adopted several villages to help the cause. A visit by former US President Mr. Bill Clinton promoted other world leaders to also help earthquake-ravaged areas.
મારું નામ દીપકલાલ વિસનજી ઠક્કર, રહેવાસી અંજાર કચ્છ. મારી બાજુવાળા ભાઈ વિનોદ મહારાજ, રહેવાસી અંજાર કચ્છ. અમે બંને ભાડુઆત તરીકે મકાનમાં રહેતા હતા અને મકાન ધરતીકંપ સમયે એકદમ જમીનદોસ્ત થઈ ગયા. 1.5 મિનિટની અંદર મકાન બધા પડી ગયા. એટલું નહીં પણ આજુબાજુવાળા સેંકડો મકાનો ધરાશાયી થઈ ગયા. તે વખતે 1.5 મિનિટમાં ધરતીકંપ પૂરો થયો. જ્યારે અમે બહાર નીકળ્યા ત્યારે માણસો બધા દટાયેલા હતા. એમાં અમારા ફેમિલી મેમ્બરો પણ ઘણા ઓફ થઈ ગયા અને જે કંઈ બચાય ભગવાનનો પાર માની અમે મહા મહેનતે કામ શરૂ કર્યું. અને 15 દી પછી અમે અમારા ચીજવસ્તુ ઘરવખરી સામાન કાઢી એમાં 50% પણ માલ સામગ્રી નીકળી નહીં. ત્યાર પછી સરકાર તરફથી જે કંઈ પેકેજો જાહેર થયા એમાં અમને મેઇન પેકેજ આ પ્રમાણે લાભ મળ્યા. એમાં મકાનનો પણ જોગવાઈ રાખી ભાડુઆત તરીકેની. ભાડુઆતને સરકાર તરફથી 100 ચોરસ મીટરની જમીન મળી અને એ 100 ચોરસ મીટર જમીન રાહત ભાવે આપી. ડેવલપમેન્ટ થયેલી જમીન અમને સરકાર તરફથી આપવામાં આવી અને એમાં મકાનની કોઈ બાંધે નહોતી, પણ રોટરી ક્લબ જેવી સંસ્થા જે છે એમણે અમારા બધાને માટે એક મહાકાર્ય આરંભ્યું અને 60 મકાનો એક ટાઈપના સારા વ્યવસ્થિત બનાવી આપ્યા.
In such situations, it becomes imperative to maintain total transparency, especially in the disbursement of funds, both government funds as well as foreign aid received for reconstruction and rehabilitation work. The entire process of rescue, reconstruction and rehabilitation, a saga of human resilience and endeavor. The shadow of death and destruction had spread to other parts of Gujarat too. Entire villages in the district of Surendranagar were razed to the ground. Proud multi-storied buildings in the city of Ahmedabad came down like a pack of cards. Many who could have lent a helping hand to the Kutchi people themselves lay buried under debris. More than 700 perished in Ahmedabad alone. When the main source of help itself gets fractured, the task truly seems insurmountable. The government and its top officials had a tough task. What kind of support teams to deploy and which areas to prioritize? The entire power and communication network had broken down. This made it even more difficult to evaluate the situation in the quake-ravaged areas of Kutch. Thousands lay buried and alive under the debris in Bhuj, Bachao and Anjar, waiting to be saved, praying.
इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना.
But this is not enough. The past is but a teacher if one learns to prepare oneself for future eventualities. The epicenter of the earthquake at Lodai village near Bhuj is still actively churning and potent like a sleeping dragon. The task, therefore, was not merely one of reconstruction and rehabilitation. It was also one of sustainability. It was one of being in perpetual preparedness for the years ahead. For the new constructions, much stricter norms were formulated, with elasticity and raft foundations as prime aspects. For these to be widely acceptable to the people, they need to be cost effective. Perhaps the government needs to consider a subsidy for the purpose. Despite all this, even 3 years after the quake, there are people with complaints, people who are still awaiting help, people who allege that rescue and support material that arrived in the country in bulk has vanished into thin air, with no chance of it reaching the truly needy. This only re-emphasizes the need for transparency in the distribution system, its ability to deliver to the needy and only to the needy.
આવો સાહેબ.
બેન, અહીંયા ધરતીકંપ ક્યાં થયો હતો?
સાહેબ, તમે જ્યાં ઊભા છો ને ત્યાં 400 લાશો પડી હતી.